Alright, welcome back to the vloggy. Today is November 26, 2011. Today is Saturday. I just got back from up north with my family, and we had a pretty good time. We went bowling, we went shopping, Black Friday shopping. If you saw my video from the other day, you'll know that there were some fights, of course, at Walmart, police, all that sort of stuff. And I've seen over the country, even in California, where someone pepper sprayed about 20 other people trying to get ahead in line for an Xbox 360, I believe it was. That's just wrong. Anyways, and other news, other places, I guess, Walmart also had some people getting shot. People were getting robbed when they were coming out of Walmart. People didn't want to earn the things that the other people had earned and paid for and brought out with them. So they thought, hey, I'll just rob them and take them for myself, sell them, give them away, keep them. Whatever they do, whatever people that rob and steal and thieve do with whatever they steal from other people. A quote, the usual, up above, right here. Here is a quote. Okay. Looking for Alaska. I finished reading Looking for Alaska on the ride home today. John Green, Prince Award for that book. It was kind of controversial in some schools as far as being taught, being kept in the libraries at those schools, but eventually the librarians had stuck up for him. And there was an overwhelming turnout and as far as responses and letters and things that he had called out to Nerdfighteria for. I see why it won the Prince Award. I'm not going to get into any spoilers about the book. You should go and read it, Looking for Alaska by John Green. It's really interesting. I've read his other one, Paper Towns. I have an abundance of Catherine's I'm going to read, and I have T-Fios, The Fault in Our Stars, already pre-ordered for January, as well as the audio book box set that John himself narrates. Of course, there's a limited supply of those, only 3,000 of them being sold through DFTBA Records, and then all the other ones will be read and narrated by a professional narrator that you can see in one of John Green's videos about that audiobook. He kind of introduces her briefly and mentions her name. For the project that my wife and I were working on, as well as some of you from the nation, as it has been come to call My Needy Nation, some donations were given, and we were able to acquire from the Black Friday sale. We did get a Nintendo Wii for a family for this Christmas. We wanted to go and get something for a needy family. Now, of course, that doesn't necessarily mean we're just going to get things that they need to survive, which I think wants and needs are two different things a lot of the time. Now, it's great to have everything that you need, but it can make it a little bit more sweet when you get things that you would like to have, you want to have. So, with doing both of those, we are going to give some gas cards to this family, as well as this Nintendo Wii. So they get what they need, some gas, and they get a Nintendo Wii, which they may want. Hopefully they will, because that would be kind of awkward giving them a Nintendo Wii and they don't want a Nintendo Wii. We're going to give them those things, probably do maybe a little dinner. That's something we're still wanting to do. We need to find a family and find out how we're going to get those all put together, because we've never done anything like this before, so it's all new to us. It's a learning experience. So hopefully in the future there will be a lot more of these type of projects that we will do. Now that I've finished Looking for Alaska, there were a lot of really good questions and points that were brought up throughout the book. And it really makes you think. If you're a thinker and you like to get in depth on things and really get into the psyche of other people and get into your own psyche, which I happen to do. And that's a question I would like to kind of pose, is why do people do what they do? I took a couple of psychology classes in college, and it was really interesting to me. I never got into abnormal psychology. I did like general psychology and human growth and development psychology. My first book that I wrote last year for NaNoWriMo is called The Stalkers Club. And that has a lot to do with wondering why people do what they do and why they react the way they do to certain situations. And a lot of that has a background in how they were brought up, how they were taught to react to certain situations, and then through socialization, what is expected in certain situations, as well as how they combine the two, what they were taught and then what they learned from society, and then from their own understanding and their own interpretation of how to react to situations and how to cope with things. So for me, you hear about people wearing many different hats. You know, they can act on many different levels. You know, they can be a teacher. The same person can be a teacher, a mother, a consumer, a daughter, a sister, cousin, grandmother, granddaughter. It can be all those things, and depending on what situation you're in, you act in a certain way, depending on the relationship that you have with those people that expect you to play in that role. Myself, I think of 3 different main selves when I just think about me, not like my family and everything else. Because of course I have the role of being like healthcare provider, father, husband, son, brother, cousin, uncle, all those things. But the 3 main things that I think of when I just think of myself is I think of the speaker self, which is me right now that's talking to you, which I'm usually very awkward and I stumble over my words a lot. And I can't say things and articulate them the way that I really feel I would like to. However, my second self is what I call the thinker self. Now, my thinker self is, of course, whenever I'm posed a question or I look out and I see something, I start thinking of it and start thinking of the deeper meaning of things. Or it could be whenever I think of what I would like to say, I can articulate it much better in my head than when I actually speak those words. And I can't get them out exactly how I think them in my head. They sound so much better in my head. And then when I actually start saying it, I start thinking that didn't sound at all like it did when I had it in my head. I'm just not as suave when I actually speak, when I'm in my speaker self, as when I'm in my thinker self. Now, my third self that I think of when I think of myself is the writer self. Now, the writer self and the thinker self are fairly closely related. The thinker self, of course, is when I think of these ideas and these words and then I put them down on paper in the way that I want them to, in the way that I want them to be, to sound, to be articulated. But the writer self doesn't always translate backwards into the thinker self, and the thinker self doesn't always translate backward into, or forward, depending on which way you think of it. Doesn't always translate back into the speaker self. Like I said, I have difficulty actually verbalizing what I think. Those are the main things I want to talk about today. I wanted to ask you a question that came from looking for Alaska. What was your best day? So you can leave that in the comments below. Do you have a favorite self of you? I enjoy my thinker self quite a bit. I'm trying to build up each one a little bit more and get a little bit better at each one of those. But my thinker self is one of my favorite things. I am going to let you go on that note, try to cut this video down quite a bit. So here's the outro with a quote. Or should I say the quote is the outro? Alright, I will talk to you all tomorrow.